I just know you're going to love the guests that we have on in this episode, so don't go away. Hi, I'm Dr. Rick Wadge. Welcome to another episode of The Interview. We have a special guest with us in Texas. It's our dear friend, Betty Swann with Betty Swann Ministries.
Thank you.
Betty, how you doing?
I am doing so great. I am full of the joy of the Lord.
You are now. You've been working hard for the last 2 days on a brand new season of Wisdom in the Night. Let's talk about it.
Right. Well, I'm very excited about it this particular season because I wanted to show people how people of the Bible, even if they lived 2,600 years ago, still were relatable to people today. Their clothing may have changed, their accents may have changed, their lifestyles may have changed, their culture may have changed, but people remain the same. And you can get wisdom from studying the people of the Bible that applies to your life today.
I absolutely agree. Other people have done character studies, but they're very different from yours. Yours are unique in the sense that I think you've captured the feeling of the individual and the moral lessons that we learn.
Yeah, they're not very studious. I'm not a great teacher of the Hebrew, the Greek, everything that people like you have done immense research on. I have always been, and I am now, a teacher of practical Christianity. I want people to understand how to take the Bible and really live by it. I mean, live their everyday life, but have it where they live on a plane with God, that it's the abundant life. And so my heart is practical Christianity. Simple, simple.
Well, I appreciate your accolades, but the bottom line is if any of us as teachers don't connect to the people and the message of the Bible, then we really haven't connected with what the message of the Bible really is. And it's not just obviously about Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek, but taking those languages and making them practical. You do that. And so I applaud you. You make sure that it's practical for the individual to be able to learn the lessons from the characters, apply it to their own lives so that they can be pleasing to God and be fulfilled.
Right, but they also get answers. That's what I've learned. So many people come to Christian TV and they have issues going on. They need hope. Yes. Mainly hope. Yes. They need encouragement, but they want answers. There's a time and a place for in-depth Bible study.
Yes.
It's wonderful. I love it, you love it. But there's a time and a place where it needs to be very simple. And the reason I do that, Rick, I got to looking at what Jesus did. If there's anybody in the universe that could have done deep, depth, that none of us even have an idea about. It's Jesus, because he thought it all. But what did he do? He kept it very simple, very teachable, and people loved it. And also, Rick, I try to move in signs and wonders on those shows. If I get a prophetic word, if God tells me, like I was filming one today, and God said there's a 5-year-old girl watching. I was teaching on children of the Bible, God's warriors. And all of a sudden, God spoke into my heart, there's a 5-year-old girl watching the show right now. Look in the camera and talk to her. And I did. I talked to her. Now, there'll be other people watching that'll say, but what she's saying to that little girl applies to me.
Sure.
So that's how I do things.
Yes. And I think we need all of it.
I do too.
All of it. Richard Foster, who is a brilliant man, scholar, I would say even philosopher, maybe even part monk. But Richard Foster wrote a book and started a movement called Renovare, which means this kind of change, this renewing of things. And one of the things that he pointed out in Renovare, French term, means really was this idea that each of us from our different backgrounds, different denominational backgrounds, theological backgrounds, experiential backgrounds, brings something to the table. And it's something that God initiates in our lives. So with one group, you may have more charismatic emotions being expressed. With another, it's very studious. With another, it has to do with a very theologically minded. But God is the one who brings all of those things together to make us whole.
I totally agree. Totally. Because you want to be a well-rounded person. You want to get a little bit of all of that.
Right.
And that makes you well-rounded. If you major on just one of those, then you're really short-sighting yourself.
I agree. I totally agree. I would say that your shows are not only just practical, but they're almost like counseling sessions too.
Yes. Can you tell that?
Yes, from the individual that you're studying that is the focus of that episode. And it seems to me that each of your episodes focuses on an individual trait or something along those lines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you're very perceptive because that's what I'm after. I, by calling from God, am a mentor of leaders. I've done it since I was a child. It's been amazing. People much older than myself, even as a child, came and confided in me. Can you believe that? Teachers.
I do. I can understand.
Because of the way God's made me. I've been a Christian from an early age, and your gift starts when you start. And I just am a person that is very interested in other people. I don't really like to sit here and talk about me. I want you to talk about you, and I want to be able to ask you questions to get more understanding. I'm not trying to be nosy. I'm not trying to be inquisitive. I keep secrets. You know, I need to be a person that people have somebody to talk to. And that's what I've done pretty much all my life.
We actually had a moment like that before the cameras came on.
Right.
And I respect you for that. You're a person of integrity. Betty, you've had a ministry for many years. 50 years of ministry, and that says something. And in your case of where you've been around the world, it's not just the years, it is the mileage. You have done ministry overseas for so many years. Let's talk about some of that.
All right. Well, I think I've worked in 11 countries.
Okay.
I have done major work in the nation of Belarus. I did that for 8 years, went 11 times, and got such a love for Eastern Europe. Oh, they are the dearest people. They're different from other people. They're morose. They're a deep, deep thinking people. They love poetry. They're such survivors because they've been through so much.
They have.
So when God said, "You're done," it broke my heart. I'll go anywhere God wants me to go. I've told him for years and years and years, I'll go anywhere, anytime, help anyone, do anything. Just tell me where I can be of the greatest use to you. And that's where I'll go. But my problem is I fall in love with the people. And then when God says you're done, I'm like, oh no. And I thought I would be in Eastern Europe all my career. And then I went from Eastern Europe to Africa. And I could remember thinking, Lord, I've given 110% of my love. How am I going to have any love for the Africans? What am I going to do? And I meant it because I talked to God like that. And so one day I was going down a road in the bush, and I saw a little boy and his big sister. She was chasing him through the bush, and he was laughing, and she was chasing, and it was just like Cupid went, boing, and I went, I love him. And I'm still working in Africa. I started in 2005. It's had different things that have gone on, some very, very big, like building an orphanage or training women leaders. Now I have a very small handprint or footprint there. It's lepers. I'm working with 15 lepers, feeding them, clothing them. We've been building them homes, beautiful homes. And now we're helping them get jobs. We've got a doctor and a nurse coming with medicine from WHO, the World Health Organization. I got on the internet, found out they had medicine free. And these lepers have not been getting any of it.
Wow.
They were in a leper hospital The doctors decided they wanted that hospital for their own use and kicked them all out. And it was called a leper hospital. So they have struggled. Do you know, this will make you sad. In Africa, when a leper dies, many times they throw it by the side of the road so dogs will eat it. That's how they see lepers today. Isn't that awful?
It's horrible.
Yeah. Anyway, then I work in Pakistan. Been doing that almost 10 years in the villages. People that are not educated, can't read or write, we have set up schools teaching them how to read and write in English and Urdu. We've had somebody as old as 80, as young as 5. They're smart, and they were so poor, they had no idea how smart they were. I mean, really intelligent. Now they have dreams, and we do Bible schools. We have a video Bible college. We feed them, put them in businesses. Now we're working with Hindu people in Pakistan. It's a big deal. And then I have a new call from God. Brand new call just starting.
Okay, now what is this?
Working with refugees all over Europe. And we're starting in Paris. And listen, Rick, my friends come and go, oh, poor you working in Paris. And I say, listen, I'm not working in the tourist Paris. I'm down under the bridges feeding people. And we're going to have a big ministry. It's just starting. It's on the ground. It's just the foundation's just barely being laid. We're laying it very carefully because it's going to be the kind of foundation, when it's established and solid, we'll be able to put it in any country working with refugees and just tweak it a little bit for the country. So we're starting in France. It's called FEAST. It's an acronym. Fueling Empowerment Through Art, Sport, and Technology. So we're going to do all three.
Brilliant.
And we're starting with sport. And it's going to involve bicycles. The prophetic word has come forth, bicycles. It's going to involve football, like soccer, football. It's possibly going to involve the Olympics, the Paris Olympics. And there's another organization that's a corporation behind the Tour de France. And another thing, they've approached us. We don't know what it's going to be. It's just going to be really big. And that's another reason we're moving very slowly.
It's very exciting. The first thing that comes to mind, other than exhaustion, is, you would think after all these many years of the Christian message permeating, the entire world really. There's pockets, of course, that have not heard the Christian message. And of course, in every subculture of every country, there's another generation that is yet to hear. But besides those things, you would think that everyone around the world has been impacted in some way from being impoverished to now being taken care of in some form. That is far from reality.
Oh, you're so right.
Far from reality. We have more problems today probably than we've had maybe ever, because of the wars going on, the amount of disease that we're fighting. We're fighting diseases that have cropped up. Weather issues that we've never in recorded weather history had such extremes.
Well, also, out of all of the refugees that are all over the world, only a small percentage are in Europe, even though it's millions. And the greatest thing causing this is weather. Like drought, like flooding, like hurricanes, like typhoons.
Because it's affecting the food chain, it's affecting
their homes, their businesses.
Right. And as we film this, we know that there are thousands of migrants that are coming toward the U.S. borders. But one of those reasons we know for sure is they're trying to escape the tragedies and poverty that's going on in their own countries.
It's true in Europe too. The people think like people from Iraq, well, it's ISIS. Maybe it is, maybe some are, but a great percentage of them are people whose homes were blown up, who ISIS ruined their lives, and weather, and just finances,
Sure.
and they don't have a choice. They have to leave.
Right.
And so I'm a person that can see both sides of it. I'm not just on the refugee side thinking, those European countries, what's the matter with them? I've talked to too many Europeans that say, what are we going to do with all these people?
Right.
What are we going to do with them? And it's going to drain us. And so I see both sides, and I'm not sure I know what the answer is. I don't think I know.
You do. You do know what the answer is. It's
What
the
is it?
Messiah
Oh, okay,
setting up
sure.
his kingdom and making wrongs rights, straightening out the errors that we've created, cleaning up the oceans, cleaning up the air, cleaning up the food system, the chain, the ground, the soil, getting rid of the pesticides. And I see, when I look now, Betty, at prophetic scriptures, I see a very practical messianic kingdom coming in, one that we're rolling up our sleeves and we're really working at fixing the wrongs. I see that taking place before the new heaven and new earth.
That's so interesting.
And
I've never
so-
even thought about that.
And so to me, it's, one of the ways I've come to this conclusion, and that could change again tomorrow, but one of the reasons I've come to this is when you look at scriptures like Zechariah, and it talks about the nations coming up, the Lord commanding the nations to come up to Israel and celebrate the Feast of Sukkot, where they won't get rain. I see that as being very practical. So we're not all in one place. There's still nations, there's still people in other parts of the world that have to come up. So all of a sudden it begins to be very practical to me, this
But
messianic
God
kingdom.
is practical.
It's very practical. And I think we spiritualize a lot of things that were meant to be very practical because we're humans. And so anyways, my point of all this is that there's a lot of work to be begun now. There's a lot of work to be done, and not wait for the kingdom to come
Right,
to begin doing
absolutely.
the kingdom works like
'Cause we
you're
don't know when
doing
that is.
right now.
Yeah.
We don't know. What we do know is that we're kingdom citizens here on this earth, and so we bring the kingdom in effect by acting as kingdom citizens.
Well, I remember one time somebody interviewed Dave Wilkerson,
Yes.
the crossing the switchblade
Sure.
guy. And he had this vision. He wrote a book called The Vision, and it describes everything that's happened. I mean, it's almost like uncanny because he got it in the 70s. And so much of what's going on now, it's just like was in the book. And someone said, well, Brother David, this is awful. What are you going to do? He said, I'm going to go plant a tree.
Right? Exactly. That's exactly right. And so we plant trees by helping each other out, by offering the homeless a place to lay their head, by giving bread to the person who's hungry, by going to India, Pakistan, the Ukraine. Have you ever worked with Gary Cristofaro, Ezra International? Okay, because you're in some of those areas you have in the past that they focus their energies on. So what can the person do in these last 9 minutes? One of the things that's very practical, what can the person do that's watching this? They may be in Japan, they could be in China, France, or the U.S.
Well, do you
What can they
mean,
do?
okay, let me ask you, do you mean by helping a ministry, or do you mean by what they could do themselves right where they
Well,
are?
let's look at both of those. What can they do by helping your ministry? What will that do? Secondarily, what can they do themselves where they're at, their own little piece of
All right.
earth?
Well, in my ministry, I don't take a salary and no one else does. So our goal is to give about 96 or 97% away every year. And we've done it for nearly 15 years.
Okay.
So that's not going to change. And the money is very carefully used. We're very thorough. We keep extremely careful records. Like if you said to me, okay, tell me what you did on November the 10th, 2008. I can show you where the money was spent, who it went to, and here's the receipts. And so we've been very careful. We've had some problems. If people want to cheat you, They
Sure.
can cheat you.
Yes.
That's been the
Yes.
hard lesson I've had to learn.
Yeah.
They can falsify everything.
Well, every Christian ministry's had to learn that.
Oh, you know what was the best advice I got when I got started? One of my overseers said, Betty, you know where the greatest misuse of money is in Christianity? No, missions. Nobody holds them accountable. They just give them the money and don't say, where'd you spend the money? And I thought, well, I'll be different. I'm going to make it everybody give me a record. But even that, they can cheat even another.
Sure.
But I would say easily most of what we've gotten has gone exactly what it was intended for. So you ask me how people watching could help a ministry, whether it's
Sure.
mine or somebody else's. I would say look at something you're interested in. Like maybe you want to feed people. Maybe you want to educate people. Maybe you want to get them computers. Maybe you want to have a Bible school. Maybe you want, whatever you're interested in, find a ministry that's doing that. Make sure they really spend the money like you give it for, not they get your money and
Right.
and they put it in their pocket,
Yeah.
all that junk. It's
Sure.
so awful.
Yeah.
But make sure you know. Don't just give it and not know, but find one. So that's a way you can help a ministry. For yourself, like they're in Japan, or they're in Indonesia, or they wherever watching this show, they can say, God, what is something you would want me to do right where I live with the resources I have right now? And usually it's something to start small. It could be go by food bars and walk down the street and every time you see a homeless person in the winter, give them one. That doesn't cost much money. God will always look at you, and if you mean it, he will find a place right where you are to do something good for his kingdom.
Yeah, that's the heart of God. He created us for companionship, for fellowship, first with him and then with each other. So if we're not taking care of each other, there's a real sense in which we are not facing God.
Well, I want to tell you what I consider is the greatest compliment I've gotten in ministry. A guy said to me, Betty, you know what I like about you? You don't just talk about the stuff, you do the stuff. And I think that's really right. I mean, what's your Christianity if you're just talking about it?
Right.
Proof's in the pudding.
That's right. So there's two ways. One is, yeah, you can write a check, you can use a debit card, and that's good, and that's really essential
And important.
and important. If they were to give to Betty Swann Ministries, where would they go? How would they do that?
You can go on bettyswann.com and there's instructions, BETTYSWANN.com.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for saying
Okay.
that because I need all the help I can get.
Sure.
I will tell you one thing I do, Rick. It's important to me that the person that gives me money doesn't say, I'm just giving it to this ministry. I try to make sure they know where their money's going. I want them to feel like they have a ministry in Pakistan. They have a ministry with lepers. They have a ministry feeding, and I'm just the conduit. I'm just the water hose. I'm just the mailman.
Sure.
And I want people to understand I'm a way they can work in missions.
Right.
You see the difference?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like, give to
Right.
me and I'll do what I want to
Right.
do with it.
Right. And then the other way that, so you can write a check, you can use a debit card, you can go online, you can give to bettyswann.com, bettyswannministries.com.
No, bettyswann.com.
bettyswann.com. There's another way as well. Or in addition to that, also what you can do is, you could minister, you can sing songs to elderly people in these rest homes. You can go to one of the local shelters and find out how you can serve food.
Oh, I can tell you one thing you do. You can take magazines to a hospital.
Yes,
People get a lot of magazines in their home, and they can just clip their little name
Yes.
off so they don't have to worry about somebody
Yes.
taking their address. Take them to the hospital. They
Yes.
never have enough magazines.
yes.
There's little things like that.
Yes,
and
there
God,
is.
God will put an idea inside
Yes.
you.
My wife does something, and these are small things, but they all add up. We'll be taking a walk in the evening, and she's constantly looking at the ground, and what she's looking for are nails that could puncture someone's tires.
Wow.
And that's what we do when we
That's
walk.
what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be big.
And it's not where we would drive our vehicles. It's where someone else might. And who sees that? Only God and me. But the point is, there's always something practical that we can do for each other.
Absolutely. I love that. I
Isn't that a great
love
story?
that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Because
it's
it's caring about
Yeah.
your neighbor
yes.
as
Caring about
yourself.
you.
Love
Yes.
your neighbor as yourself.
Yes. Yes.
She doesn't want to get nails in her tires.
Right.
She doesn't want somebody else to get nails in their
That's
tires.
right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes. So there's always something that we can do to help one another out. And by doing so, we're blessing God because we're seeing them in the image of their Creator.
Well, I can tell you something I knew about one time. A woman was completely bedridden and almost paralyzed, and parts of her body were paralyzed. So she was never going to get out of the bed, and she was never going to be able to walk, never do anything. And she said, what can I do with my life to serve Jesus? You know what she did? People would call in and she would pray.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Isn't that great?
Right. You don't have to have legs to pray. You don't have to have arms to pray.
You don't even have to have a mouth to pray, and you don't have
That's
to have
right.
eyes to pray.
That's right.
You just got to somehow know what the prayer
Right.
request is.
Right.
Everybody needs prayer.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
you would have been able to ask that woman, do you feel fulfilled in Jesus? Do you feel like Jesus is using your life?
Mm-hmm.
She would say, oh, yes. And that's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I think you could be like me. There have been times in my own life that I thought if it wasn't something grandiose, then it wasn't really doing something for God or the
Absolutely.
kingdom.
People do
And
that.
that's just not the case, is it?
God
It's-
doesn't do it by size. He doesn't do it the way the world does it. It's an upside down kingdom.
It is.
All he cares about is, I need that done. Will you do that?
That's right. That's right. Will you do it? Are you willing? And I think it's the response of the willingness, the saying I will, that's probably the most important spiritually that we could do anyways.
I knew somebody that her gift was writing notes. And anytime I got a note from Beverly, I knew it was going to be what I needed for that day. Just that was her call, just to write notes, nothing but that.
Betty, the time always goes way too quick. In these last moments, I want to thank you for being at ITVN, Israel TV
I love
Network. Thank you for filming. I can't wait to watch these stories and the backgrounds of these incredible biblical characters that teach us something about our own lives and help guide us. So thank you so much for being here.
I love this place. I would like to tell everybody, send donations here.
And of course, the way you can do that really helps out shows like Wisdom in the Night and all the other shows that we are so blessed to be able to share with you on Israel TV Network, is you can give to our 501c3 sister company, which is Texans for Israel. You can find them at texansforisrael.com. We're blessed to have you as part of our family here, and we will see you next time on the interview. God bless.